All right. Hello, I am doing this video to do a little bit of background explaining on comp prep and before actually going into a comp prep. So if you are thinking about competing, just a few messages to take on board of how I came about competing, and what you really have to think about before competing, because although competing is amazing, at the end of the day, it is not a very healthy sport, and you have to be ready to comp prep. It is not easy, by any means, and I think social media is the worst for that. We all portray that, we love getting really lean. We love the food we eat. Every day is quite easy when in the background reality, it is far from it. So I'm just going to share my screen. I have a few notes to go through with you guys. And then, yeah, it's really all up to you from here. So, obviously, all things to consider when wanting to compete. So you've got to really tail back and Google it. Know what you want. Know what category you want to be in, what season you want to compete in, what federation do you want to do. And I guess at the end of the day, it is definitely like the categories that you choose dependent on your body. It is so hard to obviously think about what you're going to look like with layers peeled back. And it really is hard depending on if you are, obviously you have maybe a bit more fat around the body and stuff like that, as to how you are going to peel down, because you might get to 10 weeks out and your coach realize that your category that you have chosen may be incorrect and you might need to change that. So number one, definitely consider Googling all seasons. So Australia does season A, season B. So your season A is usually April and your season B is now, so that August, October. You've got different categories. So if you're a female, you've got your bikini, your fitness, your sport. I'm going to focus solely on girls. But guys, you also have a lot of different categories. You've got like physique, you've got men's fitness. There is a lot of different categories that you can choose from. And then within those categories, you've got categories. So like bikini or fitness or sport or any category, you've got like your first timers and you've got your novice, your rookie, your mummers, 30 plus, 25 under. There's a whole heap of different categories within the categories. And then you've also got your different federations. So this is definitely something worth Googling. So every single federation is completely different. There is a whole heap, from emergency service competitive federations to WBFF, ICN, NBA. You just need to know your differences. So something like WBFF is a non-natural federation. So you are able to obviously take steroids, illegal substance to make you more muscly than a natural athlete. And then you've got ICN, NBA. They are all natural federations where if they think you may have been a potential steroid user, you will get tested. So you just need to make sure on that basis that you know what you are getting into. And by all means, if you are doing WBFF, you do not have to be on steroids. But a lot of the competitors are on steroids. So yeah, so you just got to definitely get to know your federations, because at the end of the day, if you don't know your federations and you are walking into something completely blank, you definitely, yeah, it's a big shock. So I will dive deeper into like your federations, but you just also got to remember that every federation has a different criteria that you have to meet as well. So whether your bikini, I know WBFF bikinis are really over the top compared to just your normal ICN girls. Makeup, hair, stuff like that. So it all has different criteria that you actually have to meet. And if you don't, you get judged hardcore on that. So if you You definitely know what you're doing on stage, but your bikini doesn't match your color of your hair, or you look drowned out in your bikini, they take points off of you. So you just have to really be careful of that. So definitely do your own research, but definitely reach out to people if you've got questions. God, it took me a good 3-4 months while I was really considering competing as to if I was or not, because there were so many federations, so many categories. It was stressful. So number 2, you need to build your calories to your absolute max before starting comp prep. So ultimately you need your best physique coming into comp prep, because the more you peel back layers in your comp prep, so obviously your calories and stuff get quite low, you need to maintain as much muscle as possible. So if you haven't had a good build season or a good build before you start comp prep, and that doesn't say, get fat, it means you need a really good, say, solid 6 to 12 months, even more, to make sure that you know that you can stay consistent throughout a comp prep and you've got the best physique behind you. So that gym period and that food period before even starting comp prep needs to be 100% like all the time. Because if you cannot do that just on an everyday life basis, comp prep is out the window for you. It's a struggle in comp prep, let alone on your off season as well. So definitely something to think about there. Number 3, you need to have a good structure for the past 1 to 2 years. So obviously 2 and 3 sort of go hand in hand. And as I said, if you haven't had a good structure for the past 1 to 2 years, you haven't been dedicated, you go out drinking most weekends, or not even most weekends, every couple of weekends you're drinking, you're binge eating on weekends with your family, stuff like that. You're not ready for comp prep, because you have to be 110% committed before and after whilst going into that comp prep. So make sure you've had a good structure for at least 1 to 2 years, and that includes tracking food. Some comp prep coaches still will give you meal plans if you ask, a lot don't. So just make sure you sort of know where you're sitting with that, and depending on who you choose. So tracking food every day for a good 6 months as well, which obviously goes into number 2 and 3. If you're not hitting your calories and macros every single day, comp prep is not for you yet. So 2, 3, and 4 is probably your most important before you even think about comp prep. Like if you cannot stay consistent throughout a good, even a month, without being like going off track or doing something, comp prep's not for you. Like, it's as harsh as it sounds, comp prep is not flowers, not roses. Like, comp prep is walking on glass 24/7. It is fucking hard. So with that, training on your plan to a T. So not only food, but your training needs to be consistent. Yes, we get sick, shit happens, but when you are in prep, you cannot stop. Whether you're sick, whether a family member dies, whether, something happens, shit happens. You're in prep though. That missed one day is literally a day closer to comp prep that you've just missed. So it's a go, go, go. If you don't feel like training or doing your cardio or hitting your steps or not getting up in the morning to start your steps, unfortunately in prep, you have to. Like, there's nothing for it. Your coach gives you a plan because they know that this plan's going to absolutely 100% work for you. And if you're not following it or you're lying to your coach, at the end of the day, you're going to be the one that looks bad on that stage, no one else. So 6, most important is, are you coachable? If you are not coachable, you do not trust the process, you're just in it to get lean and skinny, you're in it for the wrong reasons. And another thing is, I didn't put in here, but make sure you get a comp prep coach or someone that knows what they are doing. If you're, say, 10 weeks in and you're like, I'm struggling, I don't understand what my coach is doing, you just feel like they're half-assing, give up or get another coach, because you need to be coachable, but your coach also needs to be able to coach you. And if they can't coach you, get out. If you've got funny feelings from your coach, get out. And another thing is, I'm not a comp prep coach. I am looking at studying it. You don't have to have a degree behind you or a comp prep certificate behind you, but it is handy because when it comes to peak week, which is your week out from comp, it is very, very important, obviously, for a female especially, is to make sure that everything is going to plan. I will touch base on health, but we will get there. So number set, mindset. So off season's not too bad because usually your calories are quite high. However, coming into comp prep, you will find the less calories you have, the more cardio you're getting introduced, stuff like that, you're going to have mood swings. Are you prepared to lose friends and family? Your sleep gets compromised. Your health, it's not a healthy sport. So you need to understand that. I think the only thing that kept me going in comp prep with the health side of things, because obviously it's not a healthy sport, was I felt good because I looked good. And I had a mindset of when I went into comp prep, it was I will get on stage, and there was no excuses for that. So consider factors such as, are your friends and family willing to support you? Often they say they are, but actually they do not understand the sport. So once you start getting into comp prep and you're getting leaner and leaner and these mood swings are coming out and you have to say no to friends and family, you've got to say, no, I've got to go for my steps. Like, I don't have time to be coming out tonight or seeing you tonight. They will start judging you because they do not understand the process of comp prep. So you have to consider those factors. Are you willing to lose friends and family? Same thing as you are working on yourself. So it's quite a selfish sport, but if they're not willing, to even maybe do a bit of research about it, they're out. Like, you just can't have that negativity around you. They will start asking you questions as to why you're doing it, and then they will then tell you their professional opinions on the sport, and they'll say it's not healthy. Well, we kind of know it's not healthy, but it's a lot healthier than what it was back in the day when you'd have a short 10-week prep. Your preps usually go for a good 32 weeks now, so it's a lot healthier than what it was back then. And I'll give you a bit of a rundown on my personal experience later on. So are you willing to go out for social events and either eat prior to going out or having to prepare your own meals or take your own meals with you? Obviously, if you're going to a restaurant, it's not really allowed that you take your own meals. I did, I just asked them for a plate. I tipped my food on the plate, but it's actually illegal. So just be careful of that. Or even worse, a scenario is you have to say no. Like, you just can't go to the event, especially if you find that you are someone that can't handle yourself around foods, and you're a picker, because even though you are in that comp prep brain, you're that tired, you've got mood swings going on. It is so easy to just go, one chip's not going to harm me, but in fact it will. So there is a big scenario there is, are you willing to say no? And then the sad fact is you start changing yourself for the better and you become obsessed with yourself. It is a very obsession sport. And no one likes to see that. So I lost a lot of friends and family. And even though I felt like I hadn't lost friends, I definitely did after the fact when I came out of comp prep, because I was a new person. A lot of people spoke behind my back, to my ex-partner, to my family, to my friends, like, oh, she's just a different person, but they'd never actually tell me that to my face. So just make sure you are willing to compromise that. So mental health and mindset sort of trickle and feed into each other. Mindset is, are you ready? Like, that is your number one question. And if you're saying, yes, I'm ready, how ready are you? Like, are you just ready that you want to get on stage, or are you ready that you're going to place? Like, you need to be all in and you need to want that medal, that number one placing. And then the mental side of things, are you ready for your calories to drop super low over time? Are you ready for the emotional roller coaster ride? Like, there was days that I would get up when my alarm went off to go to gym, do all my stuff, do my steps, and I'd get home and I'd just cry in bed. I wouldn't go to work. It is a fucking emotional roller coaster, but you have to take each day as it comes because you just don't know what goes on every day. Mental health of commitment 24/7, like you are always reassuring yourself, because a lot of us are like, we trust the process, but in the back of our minds, we don't. You don't know how you're going to pull through. You don't know how you're going to look on stage. So we're looking for that future, but that future hasn't come yet, if that makes sense. And again, do you have the dedication to pull through for a 34+ week prep? It takes commitment day in, day out, no slip ups. You must be invested. 34+ weeks is a very long prep, and a lot of first timers will have a longer prep only because, as I say, you don't really know how, when you start peeling back those layers, how you're going to look. Whereas, your second, third, fourth time, your off season is where everything is done. That is your foundation. So if you have a coach and you've been with them for quite some time and you've done a few shows with them, your coach knows what you need to improve and to work on. So that's where your foundation will be made, is on your off season. And then your prep will be probably a lot shorter. So you might look at like a 20 to 25 week prep instead of that 34+ weeks prep. My prep was 37.5 weeks. So I had a good 4 weeks of calorie increase every week. I think my calories got up to like 4,200 calories. And then I had, like a 32-week deficit. So it depends. It really depends on where you are at the time. So number 9, time. Prep is all about time. Making time to train, posing practice, cardio. You've got to prep your food. You can't literally just wake up and track your food day to day. You have to be within that 1 gram of every single macro. You need your time to sleep. You've got to eat. You've got to get your water intake in. There's just so much to prep that not a lot of people think, they're like, I just go on with my everyday life. And then on top of that, if you've got kids, if you've got a full-time job, you've got to consider all of this. So your physical appearance, obviously, as I've said before or mentioned up above, you become obsessed with yourself. And as stated above, before prep, you need to be willing to then become uncomfortable, push your calories pretty fucking high. Because your deficit won't be so aggressive at the start. Then your deficit will probably be a bit aggressive closer to stage. So obviously the higher your calories are and the more that your body can handle, the less your calories are going to drop every week, if that makes sense, because your deficit will start quite high. So if you're on, say, 2,400 calories, usually your first deficit will drop 500 calories straight up. So like, you think that's 1,900 calories. That's pretty high for just a first time a general competitor to start at that. So yeah, make sure that you are willing to have that uncomfortable stage for a good 6 to 12 months before even starting a comp prep. Where not only are you going to gain a lot of fat, because you don't really want to gain fat, you just want to build that muscle quite high, quite promptly. But you will become very uncomfortable, like you're eating 24/7 to fit your calories in, if your metabolism obviously can handle that. And if your calories are high, obviously your gym training has to be pretty much 100% progress overload all the time. And then you have to then maintain a prep for that 34+ weeks. After prep, you then want to stay in lean, but this doesn't happen. Like, especially for a female, you need to accept that, you have hormones, your body needs to regulate properly, your cycle, stuff like that. You will not stay that lean. And the only time you will stay that lean is if you're rich, you have someone cooking your food 24/7. You do not have to think about a thing, what you're eating. You know, you don't need to bring everything back into a maintenance phase. You can slowly reverse out. You can do all this stuff like that because you do not have to think about it. Someone's doing it for you. Whereas you need to be willing then to reverse diet healthy and be willing to then gain 7 to 10 kilos back on. Now, this is where it gets hard because a personal aspect for me was I had to tell myself you are ready to reverse diet. And 7 to 10 kilos now looks way better on me than what it did previously before comp. So just make sure that your reverse diet is done healthy and you're prepared to reverse diet properly. So you cannot reverse diet incorrectly because you will blow out. And it's a scale, which I will do another video for. If you were to comp prep, I literally would nail you about reverse dieting because it is so, so important. But basically, you're on such low calories, you get bumped up to maintenance. So your graph sits up here. Obviously, your metabolism has to catch up. But the more that you blow out on your reverse diet, your metabolism then just starts to crash. So, and then you've got this huge gap in between. So when you reverse dieting, you slowly want to get up to that and you want to sit there for a good, 6 weeks. You don't want that gap because that, as a female, is very, very unhealthy. You land up in hospital, you gain mass amount of weight. You cannot then control losing that weight. So even a deficit then does not work for you for a good 6 to 12 months because you have literally killed your metabolism. So very, very important. So obviously your mental health will then decline for a good 2 to 3 months after stepping on stage because you're not willing to put your weight back on. And then a personal aspect for me was I had to find a healthy relationship with food before even competing, as I was scared to come out on the other side and go straight back into my binge eating disorder. So a lot of people comp prep because they have a disorder beforehand. And as a coach, they should never, ever comp prep someone that's got a disorder or any sort of eating relationship that is unhealthy. You always need to make sure that you have a healthy relationship with food before even doing anything comp prep. And then as a female, obviously you need to maintain a correct balance of macros for your hormones, bodies to regulate correctly. And then there are 2 options to obviously take an approach to reverse dieting. So one is called the trickle feed diet. So coming out of comp prep, your calories are super, super low. You then trickle feed calories every week, which get higher and higher, which I thought I would want to do. And it was 100% not what I wanted to do. All I wanted to do was just go back into maintenance. But depending on your circumstances, your relationship with food, your background, how you're feeling coming out of comp, depends on the reverse diet cycle that your coach will give you. Or you then pull yourself straight into maintenance. So I was on, I think, 1,000 calories when I came off stage. My coach straight up pushed me to 2,000 calories straight after. So I went straight into maintenance. And that's only because my coach and I spoke about it for a good couple of weeks before stepping on stage as to how my reverse dieting looked. And we came to a conclusion that my mindset would not be okay trickle feeding. I just needed to get straight back into maintenance, hit the gym, and just get back to normal. And then again, my mental health probably wasn't the best then either because I had a lot of shit going on in the back of my head about my ex now, who was my partner at the time. So I had a lot of shit going on, and I think he sort of knew that too. So he pulled me straight back into maintenance after comp prep and after stepping on stage. So if you don't feel like the reverse dieting part, it's too bad. You have to follow all protocols. If you don't, you're the only one that ends up with the circumstances that you're not going to like. So between food, training, sleep, recovery, social events, moods, mind games, self-doubt, mindsets, cost, and financial situation, you have to ask yourself, are you ready? Competing is a choice. If you are doing it, you're only doing it for yourself. Don't compete just to get the leanest body. It's not healthy. Don't do it. You won't want to get on stage. It's an actual sport. So it's a competitive, it's a competition. And I'm going to give you the best advice ever as well. It's not a weight loss journey. It's a bodybuilding competition. So even though people look super lean, a lot of people have worked freaking hard for this, and their weight is probably a lot heavier now than what they ever were. Because it is not a weight loss competition. It is simply a bodybuilding competition. So just make sure you know that, because you will have weeks that your weight doesn't drop and you're like, fuck, like what's going on? Just remember, it's not a weight loss competition. Cost of comp prep, cost of getting on stage, cost of before even starting comp prep. You have to be prepared because it is so expensive. So from the very start of prep, it's expensive. You have to be financially invested, and you have to make sure that you have enough money for this. You've got food, you've got physio, you've got gym memberships, you've got coaching fees, you've got posing coaches that you've got to pay for. You've got massages, you've got your bikini attire, you've got heels, nails, hair prior, diet, etc. Hair on the day, you've got your tans. How many shows are you doing? Every single category you have to pay for, and every single show you have a competition fee to pay. So basically your sign up fee and then your division fees. How are you getting there? Where are you staying? Hotel fees, accommodation, makeup, tan, and hair on stage. And then I say, if you're comp prepping, it's all in or nothing. So you'll be doing probably 2 or 3 shows back to back. You'll probably be doing 2 or 3 divisions every single weekend of those back-to-back shows. And all of that has to be paid for. So personally, I added mine all up. I did 2 shows over 2 weeks. So I did the Sunshine Coast and ICM Brisbane. And it was around $8,000 just for the 2 weeks. So that doesn't include comp prep coaching fees, posing coaches. That doesn't include previous. That is just for the 2 weeks of being on the Sunshine Coast and Brisbane. My tan, my makeup, my hair, my nails, accommodation, food for those 2 weeks down there, my sign-up fee and my division fees, $8,000. So you might say for this long, but it goes like this. So there are cheaper options that you can go, obviously, for your hair, makeup, and tan. If you do your own, if you know a makeup artist and they can do it for you. But stage appearance is definitely a criteria that has to be met. So you do get judged on everything. So just make sure that, you talk to a lot of people. What do they think? Join Facebook groups, stuff like that, like first timer Facebook groups for competitions, and just gets everyone's opinion. Because at the end of the day, if you're not ready for even just being judged on your makeup, tan, and hair, you're not ready to compete at all. And then lastly, posing. So all well and good, you look absolutely phenomenal. You look the leanest on stage. You've got, you've ticked every single criteria. If you don't know how to pose, but the girl next to you knows how to pose, but she might be probably a little bit fatter than you, not so lean, blah, blah, blah. You look worse than her because you don't know how to pose. She will get a placing over you. So just make sure, as I say, it's not a weight loss journey or a weight loss competition. It's a bodybuilding competition. So if you don't know how to pose, you're going to get judged to the shit house on that. If the chick next to you might look worse than you, but she knows how to pull some poses, you won't get a placing over her. So just make sure that you invest in a posing coach. And it's never too early to start posing or getting a posing coach, whether you know that you're going to compete or not, because it is crucial. And these classes can be anywhere between 6 to 120 per posing session. There are ones that you can actually physically go to, or there are ones that you can do online or over Zoom one-to-one with people. But start practicing your posing even on your off season, daily, weekly, after gyms, after cardio, in the shower, when you're cooking dinner. I cannot stress enough by practice your fucking posing. And then do as many sessions as you can, obviously, during your comp prep as well, because as your body starts to lean out and you're peeling back layers, often your poses will change. So you might start posing with your arm up, you're peeling back the layers, and your bicep might be sticking out way too much for your category or your federation that you've chosen. So your posing coach might need to tell you, okay, arm down, because that criteria doesn't meet bikini. You need more of a, a natural look body. So just make sure that you're 100% committed in posing. And then, because if you cannot pose, and as I say, the person next to you can pose, as harsh as it sounds, you will look fucking stupid. So yeah, that is a bit of comp prep behind the scenes, what you need to consider before even comp prepping, costs, stuff like that too. So personal experiences for me was 100% make sure you're ready. But not only that, your off season is where everything is made. So your off season is your most important. And then when you start comp prepping, that's when you start peeling back the layers and rewarding yourself for everything that you have achieved on your off season. So obviously, do not play up on your off season. How you can obviously have the odd night out, have the odd, alcohol beverage, have the odd tappers with your friends and stuff like that, but you just can't be doing it every weekend, because you need to get into that mindset of I'm ready to comp prep, and just make sure you're 110% committed before even thinking about comp prepping. But I hope that helps. I will share this document with anyone that wants to. Message me. I am on Instagram, Facebook, via email. Message me if you guys would like this little document just to run through it again. But other than that, reach out to me if you guys have any questions. And yeah, we can go from there.